Hey everyone, welcome to another Teach Cover Your Thing session. In the previous session, I had uh, someone teach me Prisma, and today we are still in the spirit of ORMs. We're going to be learning about the newest ORM in the JavaScript TypeScript ecosystem called Drizzle from Alex. How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Yeah,
Hope you're doing great too.
yeah, I'm doing super as well. I like that I'm still in the flow of OLMs and database stuff. So I still have some juice from the other session on Prisma. So let's not talk about all that. Let's talk about you first of all. So who is Alex? Can you please introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, what you've been doing, and everything you want to share.
Yeah, my name's Alex. I'm from Ukraine. I've been doing software development for 11 years commercially. I began from mobile development and then switched to backend DevOps AWS. As of now, I provide like cloud consultancy. I manage development teams, and I'm a co-creator of Drizzle ORM with Andrew and Dan. So there is a team of three of us, and today I'm gonna show some drizzle stuff. I'm gonna drizzle today. Yeah.
Oh, I like it. So it's now a verb. We're going to drizzle. So I'm curious, how do you go from being a mobile developer to a backend developer who is now building an ORM tool? Just walk me through that. What happened?
Uh, so I was trying to build my own startups,
Mhm.
and it is really tricky to do it yourself if you only do mobile development. So I had a friend who did the front end, the React.js part. And I thought that since I already have the Java foundation for 7 years, I might be able to just kick in the backend development and it would be easy peasy. And it wasn't. It was really hard, and I spent 2 days just trying to do the logging of the endpoint I triggered on the Spring Boot application.
Mhm.
And then there's been a long journey since then. I wrote on Spring Boot framework, Drop Wizard, Javelin, and then
Mhm.
I switched to Kotlin. I mean, I will not like
Mhm.
name all the frameworks I
Yeah.
written stuff in. Yeah, so as of
Mm.
now, I've landed on the TypeScript world, and the idea, originally Drizzle was initially built in the Java world because we had a project where we were restricted to not use Kotlin at all. And on the Kotlin, they have the exposed ORM. And we decided to just build something like exposed on the Java only implementation, introducing like tweaks to handle sequences, etc. And then when we've transitioned to the TypeScript world, we tried TypeORM, we tried Prisma. I mean,
Mhm.
we already were a decent like cloud solution developers at this stage, and I was scratching my head because developers had that problem with, let's say, TypeORM, and I was like, why cannot? It sounds so simple, and the problem which can be solved in SQL like within minutes, like 20 minutes, you solve the problem, but you now cannot because you are bounded by the architecture of a person who
Mhm.
built Typer, and you have to live within the boundaries of his vision of how you should access your data from the database. And the
Okay.
same was for Prisma, but Prisma, since it was VC funded, they've invested a lot in the documentation, and we built a project on Prisma. But when we launched, and we had like 50 to 100 people clicking the website, and the server went nuts, and we we were completely blown away. Started to dig in and debugging. I mean, nowadays, like hundreds and maybe thousands of people face the same issues. And we realized that Prisma is doing subsequent queries, and for some different scenarios, the amount of queries went to 120 queries per API request to the
Oh.
database. So yeah,
Mm.
we sort of went around the market of
Mm-hmm.
the ORMs, and since we already had the foundation written in Java, we had the conversation with Andrew and we started building it. We sort of laid down the philosophical foundation for what we are building and for whom.
Mm-hmm.
And like over the course of 2.5 years so far, we always tend to get back to those foundations. We have to build a tool that helps and does not interfere, that assists, that provides you type safety. You all solutions we provide are opt-in, so you can like grab a particular part of the solution we have, etc. And that sort of started to grow, and we went through like 4 or 5 iterations of the API you see now. It was very Java-like in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
built on classes, yeah, and it
No.
worked really well, but it had way bigger cons than the API implementation nowadays. So
Okay.
that's a little bit of a story,
I love the
backstory. Yeah.
story. This so it's there are a couple of things you touched on that I want to like first talk about a little bit. So you have a philosophy for Drizzle. I'm gonna just get a very like straight question to you, but for now you have a lot of philosophy for Drizzle, and you have a particular kind of people you want, like your ideal the ideal Drizzle users. So can we talk about that a little bit more? Like, what make you think you've built a better ORM that was already existing? For example, Prisma, right? Like we made reference to that you had like issues with the performance in production, right? So with the philosophy and the people you're building Drizzle for, what make you think you've built a better, well, so to speak?
Uh, yeah, so we've built a thin layer. So since we already have a major experience in software development, and
Mm-hmm.
originally and even now, we consider Drizzle ORM to be an ORM for experienced developer first,
Okay.
because the presumption is you already know SQL. And yeah, so you know how to solve problems in SQL. And even if you don't, you have a 48 years of SQL existence, maybe 50 already,
Mm-hmm.
cannot recall. And all the experience is applicable to what you build with Drizzle.
Okay.
All those tools to access the databases, all those like middleware caches for SQL, all new SQL like databases, the solutions to the data design and access patterns, joins, etc. All that is accessible, all that knowledge is applicable for you to implement and implicate into your workflow.
Okay.
And for me personally, and for the team, the ORM stands for Object Relational Mapping.
Mm-hmm.
And for enterprise grade people, ORM should abstract you away from the SQL so you can operate in the language domain
Mm-hmm.
and do not think about the SQL. But for me, it's quite the opposite. I hate Hibernate, and I hate everything that abstracts me away from the tool I'm actually using.
Okay.
And we've built a thin layer on top of SQL.
Mm.
So we have type safety for almost everything, and we get the response, which is TypeScript objects, but we communicate with the database through the SQL-like syntax. So that was the number one goal. The number
Mm.
two goal was to have migration tooling. So
Okay.
so we went through countless discussions on how we like envision the way to run migrations and have those in which particular way. we had Originally we had the thing which is called symmetry, where we would copy and paste TypeScript code to the symmetry file,
Mhm.
and all those TypeScript code was like previous versions of the schema. We had that kind of concept too,
Mm,
but it didn't
interesting.
last long. And then yeah, then we were able to like come up with a CLI tooling, and there was a problem where you don't know like whether the user renamed a particular column or table, or did he deleted one and created a new one. And we came up with pretty much obvious solution is just to ask a person what he did during development, and that led us to having a CLI that like automates you SQL migration generation throughout
Mhm.
your development cycle. Yeah, 95% of it.
Mm,
And the only way to properly treat migrations back then was by having SQL files in the project, and they were under the version control. And nowadays, like this is a tendency where SQL migrations should live in the database itself. And there are basically three different ways you can handle that. The one that we already implemented, the second one is DB push and DB pull.
okay.
Like you push the changes directly to the cloud database. And the third one is you have a separate tooling for migrations like Liquibase, Flyway, and the third one I cannot recall. DevBytes, it's called, I suppose.
Okay.
So there you have a separate version control system for migrations. And we've built the Drizzle Kit migration system the same way. It is opt-in for you on how you want to run migrations, or whether you want to have source of truth for your schema in TypeScript, or you want to have it in database and then mirror it to the TypeScript implementation, etc. So
Mm,
everything is flexible, and whenever it is flexible, it is very useful for experienced developers. But that can be paralyzing for newcomers. Newcomers just want to have like, okay, here's the single way you can do that. Do it that way, and then you are good to go. Which is a like a deal with the devil. I used to call it, because it works when you have a hello world, but then
yeah.
on day 100 you're gonna realize that you're messed up. So that's why I call Drizzle ORM the day 1000 ORM. You're
Mm.
free to go. Yeah, we do
I
not
really,
interfere with the progress. Yeah.
yeah. So with dev tools, right? There's always this. Do you want to give the developer like all the control? Like in your case with Drizzle, they have the flexibility to, they know SQL. Um, you have a thin layer on top of SQL, right? Or do you want to give them opinions in the way the maker thinks is the best way to do stuff? Which, of course, with
Yeah.
your business needs is going to change. Okay, so there's no one size fits all. So there's always this paradox. If so, what I'm saying is, you probably have figured out a way to both not give too much opinions and also have an amazing DX, which is interesting.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah. And we are doing things to adopt more people,
Mm-hmm.
like we've released the relational queries. But just think about it. So SQL is not going anywhere. I've been hearing the post-SQL era slogan for years, like 10 years already. And there's always like SQL is doing this database came out, that database came out. SQL is not going anywhere. And that's the main bet we have.
Mm-hmm.
So 10 years from now, I see even more SQL.
Yeah,
D1 came up, Light FS came up, Planet Scale, Neon database, like
yeah,
Versal storage, they integrated the Neon. SQL is better than ever. And there are new JavaScript from times coming up, the Dino, the Bun.js,
yeah.
Cloudflare workers like Lagan. Lego, sorry,
Yeah.
Lego
Notify
nicely to the creator.
functions, lambdas, and
Yeah, and
everything.
the thing,
Hmm.
yeah, and to build such an opinionated tool like Prisma, I mean, no, this is wasn't just like the philosophical decision we had. We sort of implemented it the way whatever happens to the landfill of JavaScript or TypeScript, we can accommodate. Uh, and what we've done, we are the first ORM and query builder even that has dialect specific syntax. So we embrace the database you're using. We are not building the intersection of all dialects and trying to figure out how to do it in a proper way. We cover the 100% for you for a particular dialect because we don't believe that you're going to switch from SQLi to PostgreSQL and benefit immensely from having a unified schema in TypeScript. No, you won't. I mean, you will spend like 10, 15 more minutes migrating, but you will have a complete experience from the MySQL, a complete experience from the PostgreSQL. So yeah, and it comes down to dialects. It comes down to drivers. So when PlanetScale they released the driver for the Versal storage,
Yeah.
Versal Postgres. They released the Versal database. We've implemented the driver support for them like in 30 minutes.
Oh.
So the architecture we have now is insanely scalable, and we are having huge velocity of development.
Mm.
Yeah, due to
That's
that. Yeah.
that's amazing. I think I really want to see this, and I want to because I've been using ORMs for a very long time, right? So I really want to see how this stack because it doesn't sound like just another ORM. Is this one is a little bit different. It's more closer to SQL. It doesn't embrace the entire idea of an ORM, which is like a unified interface to access to any database, right? But so there are trade-offs and there's also gains, which is that it's flexible for the experienced backend developer or someone that wasn't know SQL. So I really want to see how this works. So yeah, I think we should get into it. Thank you for the backstory. I love it. I'm excited. Do you want to show me the code now?
Yeah, let's get into coding.
Okay.
So I have a little plan here,
Mhm.
and I really wanted to start with runtimes and showcase TS6 and Bun because we have a lot of developers in Discord, and most of them are thinking in the paradigm of a particular framework. So how do
Mhm.
I do Drizzle in Nest.js? How do I do
Mhm.
Drizzle in Next auth module?
Yeah.
And I came to the conclusion that the entry point for them is not the JavaScript. The entry point for them is the framework. So I wanted to showcase that you can have just a simple index.ts file, and then you can write the TypeScript code and validate your ideas, and you like type the code, run it, and
Yeah.
you have the result. You don't have to spin up Next.js, etc. So for that, I used to use TSX. So let's have it. Now we can run it. Yeah, so here it is. We already have the runtime for the files we are writing, and now we can just start importing.
So this is interesting. So we are currently running in Bonn. Is that it?
It is TSX, and I can have like Bun TS. I have already Bun installed. So if I run here, if I'm Bun is an amazing piece of software. Yeah,
Hmm. Yes, I've been saying now.
yeah,
The
it works.
maker.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. It's a great tool, really. Okay, so
Jared, yeah. Yeah, so I wanted to start
okay,
with the SQLite
yeah, sure, go for
uh,
it.
because it's the easiest way. Yeah, let me just copy and paste it from the BAN website. Yeah, so we already have here a database in memory, which is BAN SQLite embedded module from the BAN runtime. Now we can let's query the time now and get the result. I have to log it out. Yeah, so we already have the database, which is in memory, and we can query it. And now at this stage, we can already apply the Drizzle ORM, and yeah, we can just install it. As I've said, in Drizzle ORM, we have dialect-specific modules for schema declaration, and we have driver-specific modules for like BAN SQLite, Better SQLite 3, D1 SQLite, and yeah. And then now we have Drizzle instance. We pass the BAN SQLite here. Now the DBs,
Mm-hmm.
the Drizzle instance, and now we can get the same stuff. It expects the SQL tag we have here. I'll import it. And now we should have the same result. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, what we've done, we've wrapped the Drizzle instance as a lightweight wrapper around the driver, which lets us run the queries to the database. So that's the concept, like the higher level concept of
Yeah.
Drizzle. We just wrap the driver and then we can query it the way we want. So now we can select
Mm-hmm.
from a table, and now when we have this setup, we can start creating the schema. Schema is done in a pretty simple way. No, IntelliSense not gonna help me that way. I don't do stream live coding
Mm-hmm.
all the time, so I won't be able to properly comment on that, but I hope that's fine.
Yeah, that's
So
fine.
we have to create the schema, export. Let's start with the basic user, table user. Now we declare the columns as usual, the way you would do it in the
Mm-hmm.
database. That
Yeah.
would be the primary key. That would be the auto increment. Yeah. For name, we're gonna have text, name. That's it. So now this is the basic example of the schema we have, and now we can import it here and query that table. It won't let us do it, but we can try.
Okay. All right.
It will say that there is no such table user, and we have to create the table user in the database first before we can run the query on the table. So
Oh.
for that, we're going to use Drizzle Kit.
Oh. So what's Drizzle Kit?
Drizzle Kit is a CLI companion for Drizzle ORM that
Okay.
lets us automatically generate SQL migrations for, yeah, like SQL migrations. So it works really easy. We just call it, say we want to generate for SQLite a migration, and the schema file is called schema.ts. And that's it. It says that we have one table, it's user, top columns, and here's our puzzling Bucky
Yeah.
SQL file. And now we can run this and implicate, like run the migration on the database. For that, we have a migrate module for each particular environment, like each particular driver. We have
Yeah.
a separate migrator.
Yeah.
This like subpass is due to tree shaking and meeting the modules we do not want to have in the final bundle.
Yeah.
I won't get deep into that. So it expects the DB, and we have to say that migration folder is called Drizzle, and that's it.
Okay.
Let me clear that. That's unexpected.
Let's see. Maybe some.
Well, that's certainly something went wrong. I
Yeah.
don't know
Let's.
what exactly.
No,
Yeah,
let's
let's
not.
try it in the SQLite, the better SQLite. It's certainly be easy.
Better
Better
SQLite.
SQLite 3. Yeah, we'll see what's wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe us, maybe something wrong with the one runtime. I don't know. I'll check it out. So for better SQLite, we have to first install it. Let me check their docs. They should have types. Yeah, we should be good to go.
Okay.
npm t6 yes.
Yeah, we didn't load
Yeah,
anything.
sounds like
Mm.
it worked, and migrations should be implemented. Yeah, and we get undefined because there is no user in the database.
Yes.
Now what
Yep.
we can do is I'll just do it like that so you can have a better view. We will insert one. So let's insert the user, values, the name, Kelvin, and do I have to execute it? Oh, I can return it, and then I can get it. And then we're gonna query all the users from the database. Yeah, we have. And I can have all users here, and we'll return an array. And if we like print out the result's gonna be a typed array of users from the database with ID and name. So that's the basic, like the basic stuff.
Yeah.
This is the entry level for Drizzle ORM. I think this one is like we can check that out. The schema declaration, basic SQLite queries, queries with aggregations. So where the Drizzle shines is in a real world query scenarios. So we have a benchmark. I've prepared the database, but it is called Northwind database, and I can provide the link in the in the description for where we get it. There is an open source repo where you can grab one, and it contains the data for basically there is a so-called Northwind Traders project which is just a showcase for relational databases. So this is the project that showcases the ability of a particular database to provide you with a relational database persistency and queries,
Yeah.
like a canonical standard example project.
All right.
And yeah, I've prepared, I'll just copy and paste schema from the give me a sec. Yeah, I'll call it Northwind schema. Yeah, it's a big one. It
Yep.
contains customers, employees, orders, suppliers, products, and product details. And we're gonna query a bit. But first, I wanted to showcase the full power of Drizzle Kit. Is that you can iterate the schema you have.
Okay.
So let's say we want to add an email for the user, and we want to add the date created, which is going to be what we have here. Text int. Do we have a date here? It's just going to be a timestamp. Then date created and date updated. Let's say.
Yeah. So okay. I'm noticing because from what we've discussed, you are actually also specifying the column names. Like you're not assuming to use the object keys. That's handy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This going to be, this is we call it the database alias.
Mm.
This is this lives in the TypeScript domain, like the runtime,
Yeah.
and you're gonna access user by
Yeah. By the
and user
yeah.
is gonna have like camel case,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
this this is going to live in the database. So we've
Okay.
specifically designed it this way so you can have a separate names for TypeScript domain level entities and database entities. So
Yeah.
we've changed the table, yeah, and in regular project we're gonna go to the migrations and start altering those like manually. But with Drizzle Kit, we just run it again, and it generates a new migration with alternations.
Yeah.
And then
So
what we do is, yeah,
yeah, I have one question.
is
Just I think you might have to run another migrations for this one. So um how do you deal with non-sequential IDs? Because right now we are using integers for the ID. Do you also support using, I don't
yeah.
know, okay, UIDs for
Uh,
example?
Yeah, as long as your database supports it. So for PostgreSQL, let's say we create PG schema and we import PG table, um, Drizzle ORM, PG core. Yeah, and we're gonna have user in the Postgres database. She's gonna have a PG table user, and then for ID we're gonna use UU. Yeah,
Okay.
we have,
Uh,
yeah.
mm,
And then you can default random, and default random will generate UIDs on the database layer.
right.
And if you want to specify a particular function, like random UUID v4, if I'm not mistaken, then you can still do that with SQL
Yeah.
template. Yeah,
Yes.
so it is completely up to you on how
Mm-hmm.
you define schema and use it.
Okay.
And we are trying to provide, so with Drizzle, you can generate custom types and use those in the schema declaration.
So
And
okay.
you can specify how it's going to be called in database, which type in database is going to use, and how it's going to map to the objects in the TypeScript.
Yeah.
We have
So
that.
yeah, sure. So for this the tables, right? We're using singular like user. Is Drizzle gonna make it plural or just gonna be like user table? Or you could just specify users
Uh,
there as well. Is
no,
that
no, yeah, you specify that way. Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Cool.
And
Just to be sure.
it's a good question
Mhm.
because,
Mhm.
yeah, let's say we are 1 month in development and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, we need to rename user into users. So how do we
Hmm.
do that? We just run a Drizzle Kit, and now Drizzle Kit asks us. He's asking us whether we
Oh,
added a new table users or we renamed the previous one into the users table, which
that's
was called
smart.
user. Now it's users. I hit yes. Yeah, and now we have a file that just alters the table name, and that's it.
That's really
This
smart.
is that simple. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome stuff.
Yeah,
I love it. Hmm.
and just like that, it became a breeze to
Yep.
iterate with SQL. Yeah,
Cool.
due to that tool. So this is, I suppose, we covered the basics
Yeah.
for migrations. And for aggregations, I want to showcase. So this is the basic schema we had. Those are migrations. And now let's communicate with this big 30 megabytes SQLite database.
Yeah.
And that database has this schema from here.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're gonna import a lot from that. You just let me quickly switch to the benchmarks. I wanted to showcase a particular query. So yeah, let's do that one. We no longer need migrations because those are already
Yeah. Yes.
applied to the
See that.
database. It already has schema. Yeah. So we're gonna select from products where the name of the product lower is like a parameter we pass it. So let's say it's gonna be it. Yeah, something like that. Let's see what we get. Oopsie doopsie.
Yeah. We
Oh,
don't
it's
have
the
a
wrong
user
file.
table.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah. Sure.
No, it's the wrong file. I'm gonna
Okay.
go here and then I'm just gonna delete this file so it doesn't mess me up.
Mhm.
And when the SQLite, no migrations, we don't need those products. SQL, no longer user, no. Yeah, now we just run no such column.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I think we use the same type stuff.
Ah, I know. Yeah,
Mm. Okay.
yeah. Give me a second. I just need to check out the. Let's have all the products we have.
Yeah. That's a lot of products.
Yeah, those are a lot.
Mm-hmm.
77. Yeah, let's find the one with fur in the name. Fur. Yeah, we have one. So this SQL template lets us use the power of TypeScript
Yeah.
embedded into the naked SQL. So let's say we're gonna change the name to name2. in the database, but we will not change the name here, and it will automatically
Mm.
like implicate the database name to name 2. And if we decide to change name 1 in the TypeScript, it's going to tell us that this does not exist. So this is the world in between the naked
Yeah.
SQL, raw SQL, and the fully typed queries, where you have the freedom to do edgy SQL syntax, but embedding the type safety into it. So if you want to just get the product by ID, we're gonna use the equals operator. We're gonna say that products dot ID, and it's gonna be 77. That's it. And we're gonna get
Yeah. Name two.
oh yeah. There
Yeah.
is no column like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. Good.
Now we have it. Yeah. So that's
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
That's for the query, and where I think we do shine a lot is with aggregations, because aggregations with modern ORMs is a little bit pain in the butt,
Hmm.
but we can do it gracefully with SQL. Just collapse it a bit. So in this scenario, we are fetching orders with their details, and we
Yeah.
apply SQL aggregations.
No.
Uh, it's deprecated. I don't know how it's now. Uh, Drizzle lets us fetch the particular set of fields for a particular table,
Yeah.
and we decided to go that way because in SQL you write it the way select, then you list the fields like ID, ship date,
Yeah.
etc.
Hmm.
from the table orders, and then you left join, etc. So we decided to go it that way for you to be able to list all the fields you're gonna get, because we do not know upfront if you're gonna select from orders and then left join the details, and we didn't want to have that additional select here for you to implicate to list the fields in a typed manner, and those still wouldn't be in a typed manner because you can have aggregational fields. So we decided that this is a perfectly balanced way for you to list the fields from the database
Yeah.
when you select, left join, then group by, etc. So in
Hmm.
this query, we select all the orders, and we select products count, the quantity of all those products, and total price for all those products.
Yeah.
And then we just fetch it from the database, and then we'll console log result.
Yeah. So
And here we have, and that was 16,000 of the like 26,000. And you see the SQLite
yeah.
is very fast. And
Yeah.
now we have all that we need. Yeah, that's
So
basically it.
I don't know. You're not using any. Okay. In your syntax, doesn't seem as if you're doing any sort of asynchronous JavaScript because there's no await. So how, like, I don't know. Is this can't be synchronous, right? So just enlighten me how you're making this work. Yeah.
It is synchronous because, as I mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
we are very both dialect specific and driver specific. So let's say uh, if I would be writing PostgreSQL, I would have to apply awaits everywhere because every PostgreSQL driver is asynchronous. For
Okay.
SQLite, it's not the case because
Yeah.
Ban SQLite is synchronous and Better SQLite is a synchronous driver. And we are the only one ORM out there who has a synchronous syntax
Mm-hmm.
for querying for you. And I mean, Jared from the BAM runtime, he basically measures everything, and I've seen the tweet, and we sort of shave off microseconds because synchronous calls, those, like, you measure those in the magnitude of nanoseconds, and
Mhm.
if you are implying synchronous programming, the promises awaits, those goes to microseconds. But that's still a useful implication because you now don't have to worry about all those awaits.
Mm.
And this is also useful for production environment, like for serverful environment. We have a project where we host the API on the Fly.io, and the database is LightFS, and it uses, like, we deployed the application which has BAN runtime, in-file database, synchronous BAN SQLite driver, and it's incredibly fast. It's like
Wow.
crazy fast. Yeah, yeah,
That's
and it is very useful to do synchronous programming. It is very, like, it's the best developer experience to not
mhm.
think all the time about all those async awaits, etc. Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense, really. And it's really it's almost magical how you be able to like support these different dialects, and
yeah,
you have this. So there's the ORM, but if you want to drop down, you actually expose like SQL. I don't know. Is that like is this like an operator? Because you could just call it with the template literals, right? It's really good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we do duplicate a lot of code because we have different
Mm-hmm.
dialect specific and different driver specific code base, but we are not afraid to do it to duplicate code, all for the best developer experience you're gonna have. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, um, anything more you want to show me before we are wrapping up in a bit?
Uh, yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we can skip that one. Migrations, I already showed you.
Yeah.
I want to highlight the relational queries we have, and I want to show it in the simple example. So let's say we have, yeah, I'm gonna delete that, it's unnecessary. We have user, and we have posts of the user. And it's gonna be SQLite table, posts, it's gonna have ID, uh, post title, let's say, whatever, text. And now we're gonna have who created the post, the author of the post, which is gonna be int, is gonna be author ID. We can have reference here, which is gonna create a foreign key for the user,
Mm-hmm.
user ID.
Yeah. We have a
And
typo
just to
with author
showcase a little
ID.
bit more,
Yeah.
yeah, I do. And now we have comments. For comments, it's gonna be text, and we're gonna have post ID or post ID references, posts, and an author ID. Okay, great.
Yeah. We should have
So
one more
we
typo with
have,
author ID for comments.
yeah,
Good. Yeah.
consistency. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have relations module.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we need to export it. User relations, which lets you create the declare the relations between table, which then you can use to relationally query your database. Let me just, so I have many, so I have posts, I have many of posts, and I have them, let me check the documentation, because relational queries, yeah, I do it right. Oh, I see. Do it all the time with those parentheses. Yeah, that was good. Many posts. Now I have posts relations. Posts. And, fields, references. So post author ID is gonna reference the user ID, and the same for comments of these posts. For comments, post one post or comments post ID is going to be posts ID, and post is going to have many comments. Many comments. So that's basic. And what we can do now is we're going to go here. We're going to regenerate migrations. PNPM, Drizzle Kit, generate, gonna apply breakpoints. Yeah, so we now have the creation of tables, and as you see, just a simple SQL. It has foreign keys, etc. And we will now go back to the in-memory version.
Yeah.
Is it in memory? It's
So it was
memory.
just memory. Yeah.
Yeah. So we now migrate from here, DB, migrations folder is Drizzle. That's it. Now we're gonna insert the user, so we can query it. Insert into user, values, name, Alex, run. No, I will return because I need the ID of the user. Now we're gonna insert a couple of posts for the title, post one, author, it's gonna be my inserted ID, the second one, title, it's going to be an array. So
That's interesting.
title, poster, author ID is mine. Yeah, and the magic trick we're going to do now is import a schema from schema. We're going to just provide it here. Oh, not here, here. Schema, that's it. And now what we can do, we can fetch users. I'll rename it to users, that would be better. Yep. Yeah, it's fine. So we can query users and find many of those. And we can fetch those with their posts, which is syntax, which is very familiar for you if you've used Prisma. So now I'm going to have result. And this result will fetch me a user and his posts.
Okay.
And we can go deeper. We can have posts, and then we can have with their comments. But I didn't insert any comments, so let's just fetch posts for now. Then we can fetch those with comments. So, and we're gonna console.log the result. This is for lazy people who don't want to map the joins, and I completely in the same boat with them. Yeah. And yeah, we grabbed the Alex user. Now I'm really glad that worked. Really, I
Yeah.
was really terrified it's not gonna work. Yeah, I
Yeah.
managed to set up it in the one run. Yeah,
Yep.
so it fetched the user and it fetched the post. Let's just print it out like a pretty JSON. Sorry. Results not to. Yeah, and as you see, we get our user and his posts, and we can go deep and fetch comments. It's the last thing I will do. Comments. These comments. True. Yeah, and I will insert a couple of comments to the first post. TP insert comments values. Now I have text comment 1, author ID is gonna be mine, post ID is gonna be 1, that's fine. And ID comment 2, comma. Yep, and now we can execute. And we don't have any comments here.
Yeah. Did you grab the
I
posts
didn't
before?
run.
Yeah. Okay, run.
I
Okay.
didn't run the
Okay.
statement. And yeah, now we have comments. So, and the magical thing about that, you can first of all you can go check it out in the docs and read the blog post on the Medium we made.
Yeah.
And this particular stuff, it does exactly one query to the database. So regardless of how many relations you're gonna place here, and yeah, it's very powerful. We can omit any columns we want. I want to say that I just want the name of the user, the text from the post, and name here. and it's gonna provide me exactly a name and the title of the post. I can omit or add any kind of fields here, etc., etc. And the best part of this is we can have limit for the nested queries. So I can limit to have only one post for the Alex and to have only one column, one one comment for a post. This is something really, really, really handy. Yeah,
Yeah.
and as you see, works magically.
Mhm.
Really, we've done this during 3 weeks.
Oh,
This was insane.
that's
Yeah,
that's that's some good
and
stuff.
yeah, I really encourage people to go check it out. It
Mhm.
works beautifully. It has its own edge cases, and we are going to address those
Of course.
because some drivers, database engines like Planet Scale 1, I don't
Mhm.
remember how it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. What version is Drizzle right now? Still minor, right?
It is 0.26.
Yeah, still minor. That's fine. I so far so
Yeah.
good. I think it's good. I think it's great.
Oh, it's
So yeah, it's really good. And you know, I have a philosophy where if you try to catch too much of an audience, you're going to be trading off some things, obviously. Right? So with Jesus focus on, you know database speak, you know SQL, we're just going to give you a thin layer, right? So you could still live in JavaScript land, but there's in between that is so thin, you could just hook into writing raw SQL anytime you like. So that's amazing. I really like it.
yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. So this was an exciting session. So before we go, everybody coming to TKYT, every of my guests have an opportunity to plug anything you want. So what do you want to plug for, like just plug anything? Because of course we've seen Drizzle. So are we expecting anything? You have announcements, anything you want to plug at all? Just go ahead.
I want
Yeah.
to give a big shout out to Andrea and Dan because
Mm-hmm.
we are going through that journey together, and it's been uh, like blown us away because people started using it, and we almost have 9,000
Wow.
stars on GitHub, and
That's
I can
huge.
help myself to finally post the
Mm.
anime meme. It's over 9,000.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I'm really looking for that. Yeah, and uh,
Yeah.
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 I wanted to say that
Mm-hmm.
without the developers who are using Drizzle, those people are changing our lives too.
Mm.
Because prior to the like beta release to public,
Yeah.
we were very sure that we are 100% production ready because we've been using it for 2 years and didn't have any problems. And now we sort of see, as long as we are open
The
source public
cost.
and we have a lot of attention, and we have 1.2 thousand people on Discord, it's mind blowing.
Wow.
And there's been so much of a helpful feedback, and uh, we are just blown away. And I
Mm.
just want to thank the guys for the hard work we've been through, and thanks to developers who are using Drizzle and truly believe in us. And a special thank you for Docs for spreading the word about us,
Yeah.
like in the early humble beginnings of Drizzle. Yeah, that was insanely helpful, and that kickstarted the roller coaster we are now on.
Mm. I love it. I had Matt from Torso, he showed me Torso what you're doing with SQLite, and it was like, you've got to check out Drizzle. Right. I was like, well, let's do this. So yeah, so I think one good sign about the tech is if people are excited enough to talk about it, to recommend it, you really have something, right? Because developers like a good tool, and if you give them a good tool, they're going to shout it on the rooftop. So yeah, thank you for giving us a good
Yeah.
tool, Drizzle. Right?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
So
Thank you for
we're
using it.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to also play with it because I love anything technologies. Like I keep an open mind. I try everything to just see how it feels. So I'm definitely going to try out Drizzle and just have a go at it. So if anyone want to reach you, after watching this TKYT session, where can they reach you? Discord and your Twitter. Where?
Yeah, Discord and Twitter. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We
Okay.
are
Cool.
very easily accessible. Yeah, 24/7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So I'm going to put
Yeah.
the link
Thank
in
you
the
so
description
much.
section. Yeah, sure. So thank
Yeah.
you, Alex, for your time. You're amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.